I've played most of Quantic Dream's games, and I wouldn't exactly say I'm a fan of David Cage's work.
Hi, my name is David Cage. I'm the writer and director of Fahrenheit.
But I'd be lying if I said his games weren't interesting, and to David Cage's credit, his work is a big reason the interactive movie genre of games is still popular today. And there's only one game of his that I never got round to playing, and that's Fahrenheit. Okay, so it turns out there's actually 2 games by Quantic Dreams that I've never played, because what the hell is Nomad Soul? Well, might as well give it a go. Okay, so the Nomad Soul. Okay. What the hell is David Bowie doing here? Whatever. Let's give it a go. Oh, hold on. I think Mr. Cage might win me over. Fuck it. That counts as me playing it. Anyway, back to Fahrenheit. Ironically, it's not actually called Fahrenheit in the US, instead it's called Indigo Prophecy. Regardless of what it's called, it's now the only thing that stands between me and the full David Cage experience. So let's give it a go.
What have I done?
This opening scene hooks you with an interesting premise and a sense of urgency. Control of Lucas is then thrust upon you, and you have to quickly scramble to cover your trail. You have to find somewhere to hide the body, then you have to mop up the blood and hide the murder weapon. Finally, you have to clean yourself off and make your way out of the diner without arousing any suspicion. Little did I know that I had just experienced the high point of this game within the first 5 minutes.
Dog's Diner, that's it.
We're then introduced to Carla and Tyler, who are the other 2 player characters in the game. And this is where the pace slows and the momentum absolutely drains from the game. You investigate the crime scene as Carla and Tyler, which is jolly well exciting for them as they try to solve the mystery, but not so much for you as the player, as you know who did it. This is a gripe I have for the first couple of hours of the game, as you spend most of your time with Carla and Tyler investigating the murder at the diner. But seeing as you know what happened, it becomes a slog to get back to the far more interesting chapters with Lucas. Luckily, it's not long before we're back with Lucas, waking up in his apartment.
A nightmare. It was all just a horrible nightmare.
What do you mean it was a nightmare? You're surrounded by blood.
I didn't kill anyone.
Is he fucking blind or something? How did it take him that long?
I wasn't dreaming.
No shit.
It all really happened.
We then bumble around Lucas's apartment for a bit, drink some milk that apparently has been mixed with anxiety medication, and then his brother calls and they agree to go for a date at the park.
I'll meet you in half an hour at the park.
See you there.
Luckily, it's not long before the tension and pace pick right back up as a police officer begins knocking on the door to Lucas's apartment.
Nietzsche. I've read it so many times I know half.
New York police, please open the door.
You have to quickly hide any evidence that would tie you to what happened at the diner, and you've got to do this before the timer runs out. And this is where I got my first game over.
Don't move!
And that's how my story ends. The neighbors called the cops because they heard shouts coming from my apartment.
Now, I'm not one to point fingers, but this was definitely due to the movement in this game. Because whenever the camera changes its fixed position in a tight indoor space, the direction the character would move in relation to the new position would change. Like here, for example, so I'm pushing up to go into the room, but then when I'm in the room, pushing up then pushes you back towards the door. Yeah, god damn it, David.
My name is David Cage.
Luckily, however, just before things got too interesting, it's back to Tyler and Carla.
Hi, Carla. Hi, Carla.
Hi, Garrett.
Right, so we're back with Carla and Tyler at the station, and to cut an overly long Tyler and Carla section short, we recap the evidence from the diner. Tyler decides to get a composite sketch done of the main suspect from the lady who was working at the diner at the night of the murder, and Carla goes to see the coroner to see if he's learned anything from the body.
When Marcus and I were kids, we were inseparable. He's the one who took care of me after our parents died. We kind of grew apart.
When we catch back up with Lucas, he's going to meet his brother at the park to confide in him about what he's done.
So tell me what's happened, Lucas.
I've killed a man, Marcus. It happened at a restaurant last night.
I'll be honest, this bit kind of drags on and it gets kind of boring, so I'll just speed this up. But the story kind of plateaus after the first couple of hours, and we get a lot more sort of drawn out conversations, just kind of going over what we already know. But after Lucas and Marcus are done having the least familial interaction two people could have in a park, they go their separate ways.
That kid, he's gonna slip on the ice. I've got to stop him.
Nah, I'm only joking, we'll save him.
The cop in the restaurant. If I don't do something, the child will die. If I do something, the cop will recognize me. What am I gonna do?
I am under the water. Please help me.
Patrol 324. Kid just fell into the water. Send an ambulance right away.
Man, what courage. The kid would have died. That guy's a hero.
He dove into freezing water to save the kid. The kid never would have made it out of there without him.
The cop recognized me. We both knew it. It's hard to say why he didn't turn me in. Maybe he decided I was even. I had taken a life and given one back.
Pretty sure that's not how crime works, but okay.
Nothing really changed for me. I was still wanted for murder by the police. But when I left that park, I knew I could look myself in the mirror again without cringing. Despite the state I was in, I decided to go to work as though nothing had happened.
After saving the child with the comically bad scream, Lucas decides the best thing to do is to go to work, weirdly. Pretty sure David Cage must be a fan of The Matrix, as his office layout is giving me straight Agent Smith hunting for Neo kind of vibes. Well, this is it. What you are currently looking at is the last frame in the game in which this story has any level of subtlety or nuance. Up to this point, the story has done a pretty good job at intertwining an ethereal, dreamlike cult murder mystery against the backdrop of the more mundane and grounded police detective drama plotline. And it's pretty evident from Fahrenheit's Lynchian tones that Quantic Dreams took a large amount of inspiration from David Lynch's Twin Peaks. The stories essentially mirror one another. Both begin with a murder, both follow a detective as they hunt for a killer, and both use Lynchian themes like surrealism and a dreamlike tone. Which, as a big fan of Twin Peaks, I was very much on board with. But after this frame, the delicate mix of surrealism and a coherent plot is about to be spoilt, leaning far too heavily into incoherent story arcs with little to no grounding. Which, to be fair, is a lot like Twin Peaks itself, but that's a video for another day. Lucas starts seeing ethereal green headlights rampaging around his office, and this is where we're properly introduced to the interactive part of this interactive drama. Considering this game was attempting to break new ground and create an immersive experience that transcended the gaming medium, you'd expect that Quantic Dreams would have spent countless hours refining on how best to seemingly integrate gameplay and story so that you'd forget you're even clutching a chunky PS2 controller, and instead firmly plant you in Lucas's low polygon shoes so well that for a moment you would be completely and utterly engrossed. You play Simon Says. Ugh, come on, David.
My name is David Cage. I'm the writer and director.
I know in retrospect the PS2 had its technical limitations, but I actually can't think of another game in which the game and the narrative design are so diametrically opposed. This approach to game design completely tears your attention away from the narrative beats in the high-intensity, critical story moments, as you're forced to intently focus on the Simon Says wheels in the foreground of the scene, while the scene itself becomes a haze of background noise and imagery. Luckily, it's not long before Lucas wakes up from his neon green headlights daydream, and goes home for the day. We catch up with Carla at the mortuary to see if the coroner can give her any clues, and it turns out this murder is similar to another murder.
What was that name again? Carsten or Kirsten, something like that.
Kirsten.
Yes, that's it, Kirsten. You know about that case?
Not yet. I'm sure as hell gonna find out.
Come in.
Hello, Detective.
Then it's back to Tyler as he attempts to get a composite of the suspect from a witness at the diner.
Now, we're gonna try and assemble a composite photo of the suspect you saw.
I know the handful of pixels that make up Lucas's face like the back of my hand. This is gonna be too easy. Let's do this. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Now, is this the face of the person you saw?
Yes. At least...
What? Ugh.
Thank you very much for your help. We're gonna get this picture out to all the airports, trains, and bus stations.
Lucas's ex Tiffany comes over to pick up the last of her stuff. Again, a massively padded section here, so I'll just give you the highlights.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks.
Hi. My name is David Cage. I'm the writer and director of Fahrenheit.
And and with that, we're back with Tyler and Carla, who inexplicably decide to have a boxing match.
This training session with Tyler is just what I need. I need to cleanse my spirit and just breathe alone.
Anyway, once that's done, we're back with Lucas and Marcus, who've gone to go visit their parents' grave.
Lucas, come on, Lucas, come and play. You can't spend your whole life just sitting in the corner. Lucas. Lucas, you coming?
So it turns out that Lucas was raised on a super secret military base, and he has a That's So Raven flashback to his childhood.
How about hide and seek? We could go play in Hangar 4.
No way! You know we're not allowed to play in there.
Who cares?
In this flashback, we see Lucas have a premonition of the hangar his friends are going to go play in, catching fire and exploding. So, you have to work your way across the base, avoiding guards, so that you can warn your friends in time. And I promise the following statement isn't hyperbolic when I say this level is one of the most shoehorned stealth sections I've ever seen, along with some of the worst stealth mechanics. If you're spotted by a guard, and trust me, you will be,
don't move or I'll shoot!
You are sent back to the start of the level to try again. In principle, there are just two ingredients to making half-decent stealth gameplay. The first, clear understanding of enemy AI's ability to perceive you, and two, clear understanding of what elements of a level or area are safe zones or zones in which you won't be spotted. And this game has neither, which means I got really familiar with the following screen.
Don't move or I'll shoot! Don't move or I'll shoot! Don't move or I'll shoot!
Lucas, are you hurt? How did you know it was going to happen, Lucas?
I saw it. I saw it before it happened. Don't ask me how.
I was told about a person who was familiar with, let's say, unusual phenomena. I think that maybe she could help you.
Once Lucas is done reminiscing about the good old days, Marcus gives him the name of a woman who's well versed in the supernatural to see if she can help Lucas understand what's been happening to him.
As far back as I can remember, I've been frightened by small spaces. Whenever I'm in a small, confined place, I start to panic. I have trouble breathing, and I need to get out right away.
Yeah, I've heard of that. That's a claustrophobia.
Yeah, you've heard the name. Claustrophobia.
Once Carla's done trauma dumping, she heads down to the police archives to look for a previous case that the coroner told her about. The
Kirsten
case to see if it can provide any clues. The file is currently being held in the police's underground and moderately enclosed archive. But judging from Carla's reaction, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the file was archived in the Nutty Putty cave.
I'm freaking out. I can't breathe. I gotta get out of here.
So in order to keep Carla from having a mentee bee when trying to find the file, you have to make sure she keeps breathing by keeping this little white line in the middle of this bar. Yeah. It's sections like this in games where I find it hard to believe that not one person across the large group of people who designed the level, coded the mechanics, and then playtested it, didn't pipe up and say, why have we made this? This just isn't fun. The whole point of what we're doing is to make something fun. Oh, anyway, once you spent sufficient time bumbling around the archive, you eventually find the file, and it's been wiped.
The file is empty. No report, no evidence, nothing. Wait. There's the name of the detective in charge of the investigation. Robert Mitchell.
Anyway, let's see what Tyler's been up to.
Excuse me?
Oh, I am sorry to cause waiting on you.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Honor to my miserable shop. My name is Takyo.
If by this point you've completely forgot what Tyler's doing, I mean, I wouldn't blame you. It wasn't until I started editing this that I remembered this even happened. But basically, Tyler's come to a rare bookshop to see if the owner can help him get any information on the book that was found at the crime scene.
Maybe there is something I can do for you. One client ordered very rare book. Since this morning I look for it, but impossible to find. You find this book, and I tell you all you want to know.
What am I, in a video game?
No, you're in a piece of interactive drama. Like the cell of the person who wrote this script, this part is massively padded, so it's montage time. Wait, hang on. It only just occurred to me that when editing, the fact that Tyler finds a clue inside the book that was found at the diner while at the bookshop, which would suggest that the first time he's bothered to open this book is right now.
Okay, here's your book.
Oh, great. You found it. Thanks, dude. What do you want to know about that book?
Is it just me, or did you lose your accent?
Oh, yeah. That's for the customers. They love that wise old Japanese master stuff.
I'm pretty sure intentionally doing a bad stereotypical accent doesn't make this more acceptable.
I was born in Brooklyn, man. I never been no further than Long Island.
Is there any way to find out who would have sold this book?
Nah, this book ain't worth enough for any seller to remember it.
Yo, thanks for your help.
What do you mean, thanks for the help? He made us do some unpaid labour in exchange for telling us that The Tempest by William Shakespeare is a common book. The only clue we did find here was the one that was already in the book.
No problem. Come by again, okay?
Training Sergeant Mitchell? That's him, in the second to last row.
Thanks.
I know I keep saying it, but there's so much filler in the middle of this game. So I'm just going to skip over this bit. Basically, Carla speaks to a detective from the
Kirsten
case, and he tells her he was taken off that case and it was all hushed up. But he tells Carla about a guy linked to that case who was locked up in a mental asylum, which is now our next lead.
Here it is.
When we catch back up with Lucas, he's gone to see the psychic that Mark has told him about to see if she can explain what's been happening to him.
Are you Agatha?
Why do you want to talk to Agatha? The only way to understand what has happened to you is to try to go deep into your unconscious memory. Give me your hands. Now, close your eyes. I want you to empty your mind and open wide the doors to your unconscious. And let me enter there.
So we let old Lady Agatha have a rummage around in our memories to see if she can find any clues. And my previous gripe of having to devote your attention to playing Simon Says during narrative beats rears its ugly head once again. In fairness, it was much slower than during the action scenes, but once again, it doesn't add anything to the interactive element of the game in any way. This whole game is essentially the equivalent of having a dodgy DVD player that requires you to keep hitting the play button on the remote every so often as the movie you're watching keeps pausing. And I know that's kind of the point of this genre, but the difference between this and say Heavy Rain is that there is no branching paths for the story. So when you inevitably mess up one of the Simon Says QuickTime events, you're sent back to the start of the scene to try again. Whereas in future games, the story would continue, albeit change due to your mistake. I know this game was more of a proof of concept, which paved the way for quanticdream's future games, but even so, I feel there were so many missed opportunities here to have you interact with the story. Anyway, that's enough griping. We finish up letting Agatha be a voyeur to our memories, and we wake up.
You know who that man was, don't you, Agatha?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure who he is.
He made me kill a man! I want to know! I need to know!
I have to verify certain things. There's nothing more I can tell you today. Come back tomorrow night at the same time. I'll explain more then.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, need a sense of that. That's it's not appropriate for YouTube. Yeah, probably add another one there too, why not? Just to be safe, can't be too safe. And again, another one. And then again, oh yeah. Okay. Oh, David, I'm about to run out of frogs. Oh, thank Christ for that. Now we're done with that completely gratuitous shower scene, we get a call from Tyler, who apparently doesn't respect the work-life balance of his co-workers. And I'd love to play you the audio of that, but the fine folk at quanticdreams have mixed together copywritten music with the audio, so I can't. Luckily, however, we can jump back over to Tyler to see what he's doing over at the office.
Normally, I don't like leaving Sam home alone, especially now. But this bookmark had me intrigued. I had a gut feeling that I was holding the key that would identify our killer. I felt like I was closing in on him, and I wasn't about to go home to sleep until I figured out what this paper meant. Oh man, nothing but stock quotes. How can anyone possibly decipher these things? Wait a minute! That's it! I gotta call Carla right away.
Hello?
It's a list of stock quotes, Carla. Our bookmark was printed in a bank.
I think I have an idea. I'll call you right back.
So Tyler realises the bookmark is a torn page of stock quotes, and Carla's neighbour Tommy works at a bank, so she goes across the hall to see if he can help.
I'm really sorry to bother you, Tommy.
No problem. I wasn't ready for bed yet anyway.
It's a weird thing to say.
What can I do for you?
It's about one of my investigations. I thought maybe you could help me with a question I have. I was wondering, is there a way to identify a bank from a list of stock quotes that they've printed?
Normally, yeah. Banks always use watermarked paper, which shows the bank's ID code.
The ID code is printed on a watermark? All right, I'll check our document to see. Thanks, Tommy. Good night.
Night, Carla.
Yeah?
Our bookmark should be watermarked with the bank's ID code.
I'll check it out and call you right back. I think I found it.
We then pick back up with Lucas, who's just arrived back home, and he's getting a call.
Lucas Kane.
Yeah, it must have been a wrong number. So it turns out that wasn't a wrong number, and it was actually the spooky hooded man from the diner using his powers so that everything in Lucas's apartment is now trying to kill him, which results in an uninterrupted 3-minute segment of Simon Says with Lucas dodging kitchen cabinetry and his apartment's soft furnishings. Well, this is another nail in the coffin of the delicate mix of surrealism and coherence. It is pretty funny.
Lucas's terrifying story haunted me all night long. I had to see him, to talk to him. I had to find out what Agatha had told him.
As luck would have it, Marcus decides to swing by Lucas's apartment, where he finds Lucas hanging from the balcony. His apartment's suspiciously put back together, though.
Lucas! Oh my god! Lucas, for God's sake! Have you lost your mind? What's come over you?
The walls were blown away, and the wind, the tempest,
Why did you do this, Lucas? Why?
Somebody tried to kill me.
For heaven's sake, Lucas! There's no one else here but you and I. You were all alone when I arrived. All alone, Lucas!
What's happening to me, Marcus? I don't know what's happening!
It'll be all right, Lucas. Everything will be fine. I'm gonna help you. You'll see.
I finally convinced Marcus to let me go out. I'd slept most of the day, and he'd stayed to watch over me. I needed to get out and get back in touch with reality. My physical condition was deteriorating rapidly. My mental state wasn't much better. I could feel myself slipping away. I knew that it wouldn't be long before I lost it. Hello, Detective Taylor Miles, New York Police. The police, they found me.
So at last, Tyler and Carla's investigation has caught up with Lucas as a possible suspect after linking the book they found at the crime scene to the bank where he works. When the scene began playing out, I thought this was going to be a really interesting concept, having you to be able to decide on which character you wanted to succeed, which in turn could then drive the story in the direction that you found the most interesting. But no, if Lucas gives too much away and causes himself to be arrested, that is a game over and you have to try again. Which really does beg the question as to why Carla and Tyler are even playable characters in the first place. As I said in their introduction, there's no intrigue in playing both the detective and the murderer in a murder mystery story. The intrigue in a plot like this is either from tracking down the killer or evading the police, and this story has firmly planted itself in the evading from police plotline. Because of this, it makes the sections where you play as Carla and Tyler feel inconsequential and uninteresting, as they become side characters who don't drive the plot forward and instead just tread ground we've already covered. The only exception to this is Carla's investigation into the Kirsten case, which does come full circle by the end of the story, but it's such a slow burn and it doesn't really add enough to make Carla and Tyler's scenes have enough impact on the overall plot. This is further compounded by the context of the wider supernatural plotline, which up until much later in the game they don't take part in, which really only leaves them one purpose, which is more padding to extend the runtime of the game. Which is pretty frustrating, seeing as they make up 2/3 of the game's scenes. Anyway, we successfully evade Tyler's questions for long enough, and Lucas excuses himself to go to the bathroom.
I'm not feeling very well. I'm just gonna go and splash some water on my face.
You go right ahead. I'll wait for you here.
Which gives Tyler just enough time to collect some more evidence on Lucas.
His pen. There ought to be some fingerprints on it. Shakespeare. Just like the book in the restaurant. That's worth checking out. I'll just remove it discreetly.
Alright, taking a pen for fingerprints I reckon you could get away with, but stealing a potential suspect's personal property is definitely not going to be usable as evidence in court.
Well, I don't have any more questions. I'll let you get back to work. Thank you for your cooperation, sir.
Hey, so it's been over a month since I last edited this video, and I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to spend more time going scene to scene on it. All my big criticisms have been covered, so instead of dragging this out anymore, I'm just going to do a bit of a montage. Okay, so Carla looks at the evidence, figures out it's your boy, Lucas. Lucas then goes back to Agatha's house to try and get her to help, but she's dead. Carla and Tyler try to arrest Lucas, but when they do, he does this and escapes. There's another killing, this time in a laundromat, and I'm not quite sure what this scene was all about. Pretty sure it was meant to cast doubt that it was Lucas who killed that guy. Anyway, Lucas goes to the church to see his brother, but runs into that crazy dead blind woman from about 10 seconds ago instead. She tells him he's at the centre of a Mayan prophecy, and some shadow government wants that weird kid he keeps seeing everywhere, as she's the key to world domination, or some shit. Lucas then has a wrestle with some angels. After he's done wrestling, he goes to see his ex Tiffany, you know, the one from earlier, and to tell her that he's innocent, and then Tyler shows up and they have a game of hide and seek. While that's happening, Carla goes to see that guy from the Kirsten case, and he turns out to just be a Hannibal Lecter cosplayer who's not really that helpful. Lucas then goes looking for an academic who knows a lot about Mayan sacrifice and meets this fella. He explains the Oracle, you know, the hooded bloke, is working with the shadowy government and trying to find that kid, but the only way he can find the kid is if he mind controls people to perform a Mayan sacrifice, which is what he did to Lucas. Lucas is then chased by the shadowy government agents and he falls unconscious. He then has a vision of an ancient Mayan man who says he's got the chroma, some magical life force that created the universe, which is why the Oracle has struggled to kill him. The Mayan man then turns into a Mayan cat and chases Lucas through the forest. Lucas then wakes up in a motel on the run. His hair is now blonde, not quite sure why, and the Oracle calls him to say he's nicked his ex Tiffany and taken her to some abandoned fairground. So Lucas goes to the fairground to get his missus back, but the Oracle attacks them and they fall from the top of the ride. We then have a flashback to when Lucas was a little boy, and it turns out he was exposed to the chroma while he was a kid, and that's why he's got magic powers and that. Anyway, we then jump forward a bit in time, and the world is now literally freezing over because that kid we keep seeing is dying. Carla meets up with Lucas, and they join forces to fight the Orange Clan. That's the name of the shadowy government that keeps trying to kill him, led by the Oracle. Also, fun side note, Lucas and Tiffany did actually die when they fell off the top of that roller coaster, but for some reason Lucas was brought back to life by some unknown force and is now essentially an undead zombie. What the Tyler then leaves with his girlfriend Sam to go live in Florida because it's got too cold. Tyler truly had zero impact on this story. Anyway, Lucas has been living with Carla for a while now, and one night he has a vision where he sees that kid the Oracle wants, and she's living in an orphanage. So Lucas decides to go and get her, but the Oracle also shows up, and they have a fight that is legally distinct enough to not warrant copyright infringement against the Matrix. Lucas beats off the Oracle, not in that way, long enough for him to escape with the kid. And while escaping with the kid, he runs into Cynthia, you know, the dead lady from earlier, but actually that's not Cynthia, That's the physical embodiment of the artificial intelligence that recently escaped the internet and is pretending to be our dead mate Cynthia, and it's part of the Purple Clan. The Purple Clan is a bunch of AIs who want the power the kid has so that robots can rule the world. So yeah, we're about 90% of the way through this game, and Mr. Cage decides now is a good time to introduce another antagonist out of nowhere with no prior mention or impact thus far on the plot. Absolute top-notch writing. Also, based on the naming of the two clans, it must have been a 4 o'clock Friday job if the best they could come up with was just orange and purple. Anyway, Lucas manages to withstand the AI's power and escape to the streets of New York, where secret agents descend from a helicopter and start shooting the Purple Clan AI leader. Lucas and Carla then hide out in a secret hobo camp in the tunnels of New York, where they meet a resistance group called the Invisibles, which is a bunch of homeless people who know all about the Orange and Purple Clan. The leader, Boggart, tells Lucas he's got to take that weird prophecy kid to the secret military base where he grew up so they can whisper the Indigo Prophecy to him while near a source of chroma in order to save the world. But before we can get to that, Carla and Lucas have sex together because apparently they're in love now despite having nothing in common. Pretty sure this was just a way of getting another gratuitous sex scene in before the credits roll. So Lucas takes the Indigo girl to the military base where the Orange Clan and Purple Clan are waiting for him to arrive. He has a tussle with the Oracle, but beats him, and then he has a tussle with the AI man, and beats him too. He then takes the Indigo girl over to the chroma source, she tells him the prophecy, which saves the world from freezing over. And that's that. I genuinely think this is the worst game I've played. Not because of the nonsensical plot and frankly abysmal writing, it's just not a game. Going back to my previous point, this is just a poorly written movie that you're required to keep the remote handy to make sure you keep hitting the play button when it periodically freezes. And yeah, I know this was more of a proof of concept that has gone on to evolve into a much deeper genre, but Christ, you'd be well within your right to be pissed back in 2005 if you spent your hard-earned money to buy a PS2 and then this game to only be treated with an absolute load of drivel. You know, I like plots that are a bit surreal, like Twin Peaks, but this just isn't that. The latter half of this game is just all over the place, and not in a way that is intentional, but in a way that is just plain lazy. I mean, it did make for a good laugh at the time, even in retrospect, if it was a lot of build-up for the least interesting payoff. So there you have it. If you've got a few quid to spare, and it's on a Steam sale, and you're adamant that there is quite literally nothing else in the world that money could be used for, and you've watched all the decent TV that is currently available to you, and you don't mind playing something that makes no sense, I can wholeheartedly recommend you pick up a copy of Fahrenheit.
What are you thinking about, Lucas?
Oh, nothing. Nothing at all.